The reminder that no decision is permanent really, really soothed my soul. I think when I was going to go full time or make any big life decision, if you don't like it, that's okay. You can leave, you can do something else, you can pivot your business, or you can get into entrepreneurship and be like, gosh, you know what? I thought this was going to be better than it actually is, and I hate it. And I want out. And there's nothing wrong with that. There is no right path. It's just the right path for you.
I received a question from Jennifer on Instagram at AndyHillMKM, and here it is. Congratulations for going for your business full-time, Andy. I am considering leaving my 9 to 5 and doing my small biz full-time too, but I'm nervous about the decision. As a young mother, I've enjoyed the flexibility of working from home with my employer, but that's coming to an end in September. Any advice on how to make this decision? Wow, Jennifer, yeah, thanks for reaching out. This is a big decision, a huge decision that I know a lot of families, a lot of people in general are dealing with, this sort of return to work or return to the workplace. So now I do love my new entrepreneur life, but there are a lot of things you need to consider before making a leap like this. And since this is such a big decision, I'm bringing in an award-winning career and money expert to help me out with this. So I'm excited to be joined by Tori Dunlap. After saving $100,000 by age 25, Tori quit her corporate job in marketing and founded her first 100K to fight financial inequality by giving women actionable resources to better their money. She's helped over 800,000, probably over 1 million women now negotiate salary, pay off debt, build savings, and invest. Her work has been featured on Good Morning America, The Today Show, New York Times, you name it, she's been there, and I'm honored to welcome her back on my podcast today. Welcome to the show, Tori.
Thanks for having me, Andy. It's so good to be back.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, let's help Jennifer out here because I know you have some experience here, not only with your expertise, but personally. So how can she decide the right path here? Return to work or start a business?
Yeah, there is no magical catch-all answer. And you and I have talked about this. We actually went full-time in our businesses around the same time. So we were both kind of side hustling, building our businesses on the side. And then, yeah, I think within a couple months of each other, you and I went full-time. The three things that I had kind of going for me were I had money in the bank. I had an emergency fund that was pretty substantial. I had saved my 100K, so I wasn't planning on using it, but I could use it if I needed to. The second thing was I had a business already. I had something that was proven, that was tested. It wasn't just an idea. I had something that was already making me money, that was already established. And the third thing was I had momentum. It was not only a business that was already established, it was already growing. It was, I had just been on Good Morning America. I quit my job 3 weeks after I was on GMA. So I think that those three things for me felt like as much security as I could get, because no matter how many ducks you have in a row, taking the leap to entrepreneurship is risky. It's scary. It was by far the riskiest decision I feel like I've made because I grew up with a family that was like, financial stability is the number one thing, right? And having that steady paycheck, especially if you're supporting a family, that's huge. Having the health insurance, having potentially the 401k, right? All of these things are comfortable. And for me, it was a very uncomfortable leap to entrepreneurship. But when I did it, I mean, I'm making more money than ever before. I employ now a team of 9 women. Like, it's a decision I'd make a million times over. So you really have to decide, do you feel like there's as many ducks in a row as you can possibly have before you make that leap? I see way too many people want to be an entrepreneur very badly, which is beautiful, but they end up kind of sacrificing a lot of their stability in order to grow their business. And I don't want your business to be burdened by trying to support you, if that makes sense. I want you to be able to grow your business at the pace you want, potentially make these kind of riskier, bigger decisions with your business without feeling like, oh, I need this to pay my bills. I need this to support me month over month. So that's kind of a good question to ask yourself is like, do I feel like I can grow this in the way that I want, as opposed to feeling like it is something you're dependent on maybe too early. We are also seeing, just as an entire society right now, they're calling it the Great Resignation, which is everyone quitting their jobs. Potentially, employers are asking folks to come back into work. People are like, I don't want to do that. Or we've kind of had this year of a lot of us waking up to the fact that maybe we don't love our jobs as much as we thought. maybe we do want to work for ourselves. Maybe we don't like the kind of corporate life. So you're not alone in feeling this way. I've talked to many friends who are taking sabbaticals, who are starting businesses, that sort of thing. And it is important that, if you want to be an entrepreneur, that's amazing. Make sure you have as many ducks in a row as you can possibly have before you make that decision to quit, especially because it sounds like you are trying to support a family through that. I'm a single woman. I don't have kids. I'm not married. That was a decision that pretty much only affected me. No one was reliant on my income, whether that was, parents that I was financially supporting or children or a spouse. So that's part of your decision too, is it's not just your decision, it's your family's decision as well.
Absolutely. Well, I really like how you broke down those three sort of ducks in a row we'll talk about. So,
yeah.
Let's say Jennifer was listening to your advice there and said, well, I don't have a lot of money saved up. What would be a good amount for me to feel comfortable, to feel safe for an entrepreneurial leap? You said $100,000. Did that just make you feel comfortable? Or was that sort of a rule of thumb you knew? What was the right amount, or what would be the right amount for Jennifer?
It wasn't really a rule of thumb for me. It was just the 100K goal was separate from the entrepreneurship journey, but it was the kind of safety net that allowed me to do that. In my advice, because I work with business coaching clients, when somebody's looking to make that leap, you either have to think, do I have enough money in savings, or is my business going to be able to sustain me, right? Because that's really the two things. Are you going to be reliant on the money that's in the bank because you're trying to get this thing up and running? It's not making a lot of money, or it's not making any money at first. Or do you feel like you're making a consistent income? For me, that was the momentum piece that I talked about, right? I not only had money in the bank, I was making money already. I was making actually as much, if not more than my 9 to 5 in my business. And that for me felt comfortable. Ultimately, I don't know Jennifer personally, right? I don't know what her level of risk is or her risk awareness, right? But that for me made me feel more secure of that consistency. So typically when I'm working with business clients and their business is already up and running, I'll say, try to get to 3 to 6 months of consistent income. If you're doing like 10K in 1 month and 1K in another month, that's not going to be sustainable, right? If you're consistently doing 4 or 5, 6 more than that, right? It's enough maybe to sustain you. That's great. You also should figure out what I call your ramen noodle number. That is your actual amount of money that you need in order to keep yourself alive, right? Maybe that's you're not going out to sushi, you're not getting fancy ramen, right? It's like, what is the bare minimum expenses that your business needs to be generating? So for me, my ramen noodle number consists of my rent, my insurance, my groceries, right? For you, it might be daycare, it might be, rent even larger because you have a larger home, right? So there's different things to think about there. And then keep in mind, right, that if I make as a business owner $5,000 in a month and my ramen noodle number is $3,000, I haven't paid my taxes or expenses in my business yet. And I think we overlook this a lot. We go into entrepreneurship. I remember the first time I got a side hustle check, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And my parents at the time were like, yeah, that's a great amount of money, but the IRS is going to take 30 to 40% of that, right? So keep that in mind too. When you get a paycheck from your W-2 job, you've already paid taxes, right? Your taxes have come out of it already. So keep that in mind too, is you might have to buy a laptop. You might need some sort of business software. You might even have employees at some point, right? And so you have your expenses, you also have your taxes of your business, and then you have to figure out what's left over. So that's something that I wish more people discussed and thought about is, again, it's not just the amount of money that your business is making or generating. That's revenue, not necessarily profit or money in your pocket. So I always ask business coaching clients to consider, like, how consistent is the income you're making on your business, if any, right? Or how quickly could you scale your business to get to a point where you have consistent income? And what is your ramen noodle number? Like, what is the basic amount of money that you need to be making in order to pay your bills? You know then that your business needs to be doing at least that amount of money plus the amount of money that you're going to pay in taxes and expenses.
Yeah, I like this message. I've never, ever since, making the leap personally, I've never wanted to be part of the quit your 9 to 5 crowd because everything's so much better over here. Yes, there's lots of, there's lots of great things, as Tori's explaining, with the growth that she's had, but there are more difficult things. I mean, what have you experienced, I guess, leaving the 9 to 5 world as sort of the benefits that you left behind? Anything that you miss? Obviously things are going great, but are there any things that you do miss?
Yeah, I mean, I will say, again, I'll make this decision 1,000 times over. I'm making I actually calculated the other day, like I'm making 50 to like 70 times my like 9 to 5 salary. Again, I'm like giving women jobs, like we're growing our business. Like it was 100% the right decision for me. But I grew my side hustle for almost 4 years before I quit. Right. And and I'm sure you did too. I probably asked you, like, when are you going to quit your job? Right. And like, I got asked that every day for like 4 years. And I'm really glad I held on as long as I did, because again, I wasn't dependent on the business yet. I wasn't forcing my business to show up for me before it was ready to do so, and before it was ready to sustain me. For me, we've gotten to a business point where we're making consistent income, and our revenue is increasing every month. But especially in the early days, it was always kind of like, we'll see, right? It kind of is like throwing spaghetti at a wall and hoping it sticks, right? And so the instability for a lot of people can be really challenging. Again, maybe 1 month you're killing it, and 1 month you're like, oh gosh, how am I going to make rent this month, right? And that's part of why it is important to not only have that consistent income, but to try to do everything to plan ahead. Where if you're going to have a bunch of money in, let's say, August, and September's not going to do as well, hold some of that in reserves for September, right? So I think especially in the early days for me, it was like, okay, let's see if we can get this moving, because you don't have that steady paycheck to rely on every single month. It might be even more than a steady paycheck. It might be even less. Or, there's so many times when I've worked with clients who don't pay, forget to pay. It's been 60 days since they should have paid, right? And so you're now more reliant on chasing down those people or creating work for yourself. For me, I realized going into entrepreneurship that I was entirely reliant on myself. And that can either be terrifying, of going like, oh my gosh, it's just me. I'm running this whole thing. What if this fails, right? And for me, it was the exact opposite of like, I can make as much money as I can, right? Like I am entirely reliant on myself, and I was confident in my ability to grow a business. I think the other part actually that was really challenging, that doesn't have anything to do with finances, is especially like you and I quit right before COVID happened. I live alone. Like I live by myself. I love people. I love the office environment in a lot of ways. Now I love working from home, but like I loved having the kind of water cooler conversations. I worked at a startup right before I left. We had a ping pong table, right? It was very much a collaborative space. And sometimes I hated that, right? Sometimes I really didn't like that. Most of the times it was just lovely to like be around people who, I could collaborate with, and who I could bounce ideas off of, and who I could get drinks with after work. And it's a lot different. You have to, kind of force yourself to create that community as an entrepreneur. And especially again, kind of moving out of COVID, it's something that, again, I wish was talked about even more of there's so many great parts about entrepreneurship. It can be really isolating, especially to talk to friends who aren't entrepreneurs. I feel a lot of pressure, especially now that I'm hiring people. They are dependent on me now for their income, and that is an exciting thing, but also kind of terrifying. And also I'm by myself. I'm working out of my 1-bedroom apartment by myself. So I think that, you have to decide too, do the pros outweigh the cons, as always. And especially, there's some corporate things in terms of the financial side, the stability, the potentially like a 401k match that you might miss, but also I definitely miss sometimes the office environment. I miss talking to people. I miss being able to collaborate in person. And especially, in the last year and a half, that's something that I've realized is really valuable to me.
Absolutely. Well, you're growing a team, so you'll have more people to collaborate with, which is fantastic. Maybe what we're humming around here, Tori, is that don't hate on the side hustle, because this could really be the ramp up opportunity. So obviously Jennifer must be side hustling because she's talking about a small biz right now, but maybe that is the special sauce. What do you think?
I would agree. I think you and I both did that pretty well as we were growing it on the side. And really our 9-to-5s were our first investors, right? Like we took the 9-to-5 money that we were making, and that was the investment that we put into the business, right? Or that was the stability that paid our rent. So I could, I remember like killing my best-selling products because I knew short term it would be a bad move for me, but long term it would be a good business decision. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I was dependent on that income again. So it gave me a lot more flexibility to, again, not be solely reliant on this business before it was ready. So if you are able to side hustle, if that's something that's sustainable for you, amazing. And especially, you can scale it over time. I remember my first 2 years of running my business, I really didn't make any money. I was just focused on getting clear as to who my customer was, clear as to what I wanted to talk about, and like building trust and credibility with my audience. And that's part of the reason why we've been so successful in growing organically on social media, is because I took that time very intentionally to grow, to develop what I wanted to say in the way I wanted to say it to the people I wanted to say it to, right? And I think that, yeah, if you can side hustle, if you're able to do that, there's the whole, again, push around just like quit your job and go for it. And there's two kinds of people. The quit your job and go for it works for some people. It forces them to like hustle and make it happen. I'm not that person. I needed all my ducks in a row. I feel like this is a drinking game. You get shot every time we say ducks in a row. But no, I am the other person where it was like, no, I needed to have everything that I possibly could planned out and then take the leap. And so, I mean, maybe journal about that. Figure out what kind of person you are. Are you the person that needs to be pushed off the cliff and is going to figure it out? Are you the person that's like, okay, I got my parachute, I got my backup parachute, I got like my hang gliding, that was me. So figuring that out can be really enlightening, because a bunch of people are going to give you advice. A bunch of people are going to say, go for it. A bunch of people are going to say, no, don't quit until you have a year's worth of savings or 2 years. But ultimately, you know yourself best, you know your family's needs best, and you're going to figure out what's going to work for you. Plan as much as you can and then go for it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would err on the side of caution, kind of like what Tori and I have done, because the statistics kind of prove that, I'm going to butcher the statistic, probably 90% of businesses fail within their first couple of years, something like
95.
that. 95.
Yeah.
There you go. You know it. Mm-hmm. So with that stat out there, that means there's a lot of risk takers, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with taking a risk, and hopefully that 5%, you guys are killing it. But right. Reality strikes, and it's good to be prepared. So I'm with Tori on money in the bank and then trying it out beforehand to obviously prove if it's a viable business, but also trying it out for yourself. Do you like it? Do you want to keep doing this? So yeah, Tori,
you can always
go ahead.
You can always go back to corporate. Like exactly. If you don't like it, or you can go back to a 9-to-5, right? That's what I kept telling myself is like, I would rather, again, because I had all my ducks in a row, I would rather go for it and, potentially, be like, okay, that didn't work out, but it was fun. Then look back and be like, gosh, I should have just went for it. Again, I'm a single woman. It's going to impact your family in a different way. I want to fully acknowledge that. But yeah, that was something that I kept reminding myself. I'm making actually a big decision in my life. I'm going to be packing up my apartment in the next 6 weeks and starting to digital nomad. And who knows when that's going to end? And I feel terrified. I feel very excited. I feel a little terrified. I'm like, oh gosh, like I don't have like a place that's mine and all my stuff's in storage and I have to give away my 55 plant babies and like, what's going to happen, right? And I keep reminding myself, Tori, if you hate it, come back to Seattle and get an apartment, right? Or buy a house. Like you can do that. So I think that the reminder that no decision is permanent really, really like soothed my soul. I think when I was going to go full time or make any big life decision of like, if you don't like it, that's okay. You can leave, you can do something else, you can pivot your business, or yeah, like you said, you can get into entrepreneurship and be like, gosh, you know what? I thought this was going to be better than it actually is. And I hate it. And I want out. And there's nothing wrong with that. There is no right path. It's just the right path for you. And you might be an entrepreneur for 5 or 10 years and be like, no, I'm good. I'm done. Right. So there's no decision that's absolutely set in stone permanent. And it's a great thing to put on a resume if you decide to go back to a 9-to-5 of, you know what, I did this, I learned all of these things and I decided it's not for me. That's 100% okay.
I love this permission to have change, and change is good. Change can be really good for you, can be good for your family. But yes, having those ducks in a row, and I just took an invisible drink as we said that, and it could be good. It could be good to do that as well. So, Tori, thank you so much for this advice, and thank you for sharing your story. You have a hit podcast called Financial Feminist. What is it all about? Tell us what it's about and where people can find it.
Yeah, so I realized that there wasn't a lot of platforms for women, especially, to talk about how money affects us differently. And so I started a podcast called Financial Feminist. We launched the first season in May, and we ended up within 72 hours being the #1 business podcast in the world, which was absolutely insane. So we're really proud of it. We've had over 1 million downloads in 2 months. And yeah, go check it out. We do these mini deep dive episodes that are specific around a certain topic that are just me doing like how to increase your credit score, how to start investing. And then we have these hour and a half long conversations with women about these different financial topics, cash bail, multi-level marketing, sustainability. So yeah, I'm really trying to meld these two together. How do we talk about personal finance, but also systemic oppression and these different things that impact our money? So really proud of it and would love to have you check it out.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's great for us all to build wealth, but it's even better if we can build wealth and create the change that we want to see in our society. And Tori is all about that. So please go check out this hit podcast, 72 Hours #1. That is awesome. Yes, Financial Feminist on all your favorite podcast players. And we're going to throw this up on YouTube, and she'll probably be a big hit there too, even without even throwing up videos. Tori, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Andy, for having me.